Shit, boy, RP on the track.
Yo, what's going on, big family? It's your dog, the Ultra Melanite, coming to you live and direct from Charleston, South Carolina, aka the Holy City. Okay? And today we're going to be asking a simple question, maybe not so simple question, but we're going to ask the question of who are the Moors? And that's pertaining to the so-called black man in America self-proclaiming themselves to be part of the Moorish Empire. We will also be stressing the importance of learning Latin languages. We had a teacher back in high school named Mr. Rudisell, right? He was an honors English teacher, you dig? This man would always stress the importance of learning Latin. He would state that Latin is the most important subject, more important than math, more important than history, more important than science. The reason being is because Latin is the language of your colonizers, you dig? So even though we speak a Germanic language right now, it would be very important. It would help us in identifying ourselves if we learn a Latin-based language. It would also help us if we learn Greek roots, but we'll get into that in another time, you dig? Because it's a progression with languages. But anyway, the reason why we feel like this is important is because sometimes we get into debates or we get into arguments or whatever, but simply because we are defining words in different manner. Words themselves mean nothing, you dig? We give words life. We define words. We use these words as constructs to define things in our life, right? So one person could be using the same word as you, but defining that word in a different manner, and now y'all two arguing over it. That's why we feel like it's important to learn a Latin-based language, or at least learn the Latin roots, because half of those arguments would be quelled. There would be no argument because you'll be on the same page. So dealing with the word more, when you talking to me personally, you dig, since I got a background in Latin roots and in Greek roots, when I hear the word more, I simply hear the word dark or brown. That's all I hear. I also know that this word evolved into the word we now know as Negro. They are synonyms with each other, you dig? So nationality aside, not dealing with anything in Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Mali, Senegal, none of that. Not dealing with any nationality. The word Moor itself simply means brown in today. You dig what I'm saying? In the Latin-based languages, or if you knew the Greek roots. So that's why I asked the question, and I don't want to offend anybody. I'm not attacking any group. I just need help myself understanding, if you will, the origin of the Moorish community in America, because it seems to me that a lot of the Moorish brothers have an idea that they are somehow connected to Morocco, or somehow connected to Mauritania, somehow connected to the Ptolemies and these Berber populations that took over the indigenous man who lived in Morocco, the indigenous people who lived in Libya and Mauritania and Tunisia and Algeria. Those people are not running around calling themselves Moors. So my question to you is, well, not my question. If a person tells me that they are a Moor, that's when I question them and I say, a Moor from where? If you are a Washita Moor, a Yamasee Moor, you using the word Moor in the same aspect that I would, that simply means brown, and you understand that you are indigenous to America, then we on the same page. That's where it takes us sometimes to sit down and talk to each other and break down, because I love you regardless. You're my family regardless. It doesn't matter if you Christian, Muslim, Jew, Moors, Hebrew, Israelite. It don't matter to me. I trying to help out our people. I trying to do something greater for our people and maybe bring us together with something greater than those constructs that we created. Like I say, words have no meaning. We give these words meaning. You dig what I'm saying? So my problem understanding is the people who feel like they are somehow connected to that empire in Morocco. I would like to know how did y'all get here? And trust me, I know the story of Abu Bakari and all of these other great people who supposedly made it to the mainlands or at least the islands in the Americas. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. And kudos if they did. You dig what I'm saying? My point is those people over there don't identify themselves as Moor. And like I said, it's funny to me because knowing history, I understand that the indigenous people in those areas were overrun by the Almohads and the Umayyads and the Berber populations and the Visigoths populations, you dig? I understand that there was definitely a so-called black man ruling that area going into Europe, right? And that time period where that so-called Moorish Empire ruled Europe. Europe was called the Dark Ages, right? They went through a period called the Dark Ages because of the Moors. The Moor simply means dark, right? So the period where the Moors ruled Europe is called the Dark Ages. Simple and plain. You dig what I'm saying? That's why I say it's important to learn these Latin languages. That way we can make these connections with each other. Now, and I know also that these Moorish populations ruled Europe for almost 700 years or a little bit more than 700 years. That's why them boy always say, remember 7-11. That's the time period where Europe fell to the so-called black people, right? But then understand too that the so-called black empire was heavily mixing in with some of their people too, with the Lord of the Berbers, with the Lord of the Visigoths. So the first two empires in the Moorish Empire seems to be mixed. I'm not saying that they mix, but they seem to be a mixed group of people, that Hittite, Phoenician group of people, right? But anyway, beyond, all right, so who are the Moors in Africa? If we can figure that out, then we can figure out how we get the Moorish population here in America. We understand that during the time of the Roman Empire, the word Moor simply meant dark or brown person, right? Maurice, Saint Maurice, all of these people were so-called black people, you dig? So at the point in time of the Roman Empire, at the point in time that the Roman Empire ruled Europe, North Africa was considered to be a Moorish empire. You dig? That's the home of Carthage. We also know that the Roman Empire was fighting people like the Berbers and the Visigoths, these barbarian groups. The word barbarian itself is a rendition of the word Berber. You dig what I'm saying? So we know that the so-called Moorish Empire was beefing with the Roman Empire, right? They ended up merging with these groups. That's why people like Hannibal had such mixed and diverse groups, because they utilized people like the Berbers and the Visigoths, and they overthrew Europe, right? They pushed Europe into what we call the Dark Ages. That's why they always say, remember 7-11. You dig? So at this point in time, after 7-11, the so-called Moorish Empire, Mauritania, ruled over pieces of the Mediterranean, Europe, all the way over to Spain. You dig? Now understand that they had utilized the Berbers and the Visigoths, which were European or steppe groups of people, what we would consider probably nowadays to be modern Arab type peoples, right? Understand also that the Moorish Empire mixed in heavily with these groups of people, and even mixing in with the other prominent Mediterranean families to hold power, up until the point where they had Ptolemies as their leaders. Then you got to look at the names. That's why we say it's important to learn Latin. It's important to learn Greek roots. You dig? Because one of the leaders of the so-called Moorish Empire was a Ptolemy. And we're only saying that to show the mixed genetics of some of these Mediterranean North Africans. That's how they got to be a mixed group of people to this day, right? When you go further down into the territories like in Mali and in Senegal, they didn't become so heavily mixed, obviously, right? Well, that's the progression of the Moorish Empire in North Africa. You had that whole North Africa and part of Western Africa going all the way down into Senegal, right? Now, prior to colonization, the so-called Moorish Empire had already established a trade route using the trade winds to get to the islands and into the Americas. Cool. That's what they say anyway. But like I said, Mansa Musa or Abba Bakari or any of these other great people that supposedly made it to America. Even if they did, how much of their descendants how much of their bloodline would have survived, would have overthrew the indigenous bloodline, you think? I can't see that they were that great of a people that their bloodline would remain dominant, right? Now, I'm not saying that some people here may not be descendant from some of those ancient Moors, but my logic is, since a lot of the early conquistadors or colonizers were speaking Latin languages, that they were identifying some of these groups like the Arawaks as being Moors, right? I know when they came to the Carolinas, I can't speak on a lot of places, but I know when they came to the Carolinas that they documented some of the people here as being Moors, right? Some of the groups that came and documented people as being Ethiopian, right? You dig? When they came down into Florida, they documented them as being Maroons, right? Seminoles, right? That's the same word as the word Moor. So for me personally, I feel like when the colonizers came here, that they identified, some of the colonists identified the indigenous people here as being Moors, simply meaning that they were brown. That's how we get the word maroon. That's how we get the word Seminole. You dig? I don't believe that the Moorish relationship should be due to the prince or the king of Morocco, who recognized the United States as a nation in 1777 and sent emissaries and stuff over here and gave y'all, where you were exempt from the laws of this land because you were subject to the prince of Morocco. You dig what I'm saying? At this point in time, the Moroccans were not an indigenous group of people, buddy. They were heavily mixed. And you got to understand that Spain and Europe had already took back over. That Afro-Euro relationship had already expanded, where Europe had become the leader in that relationship, right? So I don't believe personally that y'all have anything to do with damn people. I could be wrong. And if I am wrong, I'd just like for y'all to give us some proofs and examples, down in the comments below. But like I said, I feel like there's a little confusion going on. I know that some of the, when you go watch the movie Roots, that they call some of the black people Moors and stuff like that. Well, they wasn't calling people black people at that point in time. They wasn't, they're saying English was not the basis for identification of these people. We know that the English, when they came young, that they identified people with the same terms that the Latin predecessors had identified people as. You dig what I'm saying? We know that with the Garifuna, with the Mosquito people. We know that with a lot of groups of people, that they just stuck with the Latin identification of those people. You dig? So I feel like that term Moor at one point here in America simply meant brown. Now I feel like some brothers later on were ended up co-opted and brainwashed and subjected themselves to the leader of Morocco. You dig what I'm saying? I think that they did it under a false pretense, you dig? But like I said, I could be wrong. I'd like for y'all to drop us a line in the comments below. You dig? That's pretty much my story, or how I feel the Moorish Empire arose in America. I feel like it's simply a term that meant black people. Now, and I know that there's a group of people within the Moorish Empire in America that feel like they have some kind of relationship to the Prince of Morocco. So I just want y'all, boy, to elaborate on that a little bit more for me. You dig? Peace out. This your dog, the Ultra Melanite. Like I say, love everybody. Peace and love. That's the problem in the community, dog. We lost the peace and we lost the love. You feel me? I don't care whether you're Christian, Muslim, Jew, Moorish, Hindu. I ain't care what you is, baby. You feel me? If we rocking with the same energy, with the same spirit, then we need to build. We need to create something greater than what's going on today. All this death and destruction, you dig? Peace out, y'all. Let me know. Show me some love. Hit the like button and subscribe, you dig? Peace out.